Crazy to say, but Nicki Minaj has been a target again at her own home. The news just broke out about this man that decided to try.
This is why Nicki Minaj looks like such a bad person. Points. Because she's defending her position from the position of being the winner.
I'm tripping, but what are the odds that the woman who Nicki Minaj and the woman who up Rihanna's house look alike?
Nobody talks about what actually happened on April 1st, and that date is not ironic, it is a warning. A man named Leland Adams showed up at Nicki Minaj's Calabasas mansion, not at the gate, not on the sidewalk outside, but inside the property, moving through her yard like he had a reason to be there, and when her security team told him to leave, he ignored them completely, just kept moving, until they physically grabbed him and held him there until deputies arrived. That alone is alarming. But here is the detail that nobody led with. 5 days before this man was found on Nicki's property, he had already been arrested in that same neighborhood, the same wealthy Calabasas area, released, and then, within less than a week, he is back, this time inside the gates of one of the most recognizable women on the planet. On the exact day her album was supposed to drop. And if you think that timing is a coincidence, stick with me, hit like, and subscribe, because by the time this is over, you are going to see this situation completely differently.
I love Nicki. I love Nicki. She's from
Queens, right?
Yeah. Her damage comes from the same place.
Because Nicki has not been quiet about who she believes is coming for her. She has not been vague. She has not been symbolic. She has named Jay-Z directly. She has named Desiree Perez directly. She has cited specific dollar amounts and specific dates. And for a long time, the public response was to write her off as someone who had gone off the deep end. But when you actually line up the timeline, what looked like paranoia starts looking like a woman who understood exactly what was happening to her and could not get a single person in power to take it seriously. Go back to 2015, Nicki was one of roughly 15 artists who received equity in Tidal when Jay-Z was building the platform. On paper, it sounded like an opportunity. Then in 2021, when Square acquired Tidal for $302 million, Nicki says she was offered $1 million for her share. $1 million. And she has been saying publicly, with her name attached, that Jay-Z owes her somewhere between $100 and $200 million. She tagged him directly, called it his karmic debt. And you have to sit with what it actually means to go on record like that, not in a diss track, not through a rumor, but with your face and your name, accusing one of the most connected men in this industry of that kind of fraud.
He was hating because he was saying the NFL had an issue with me when I got 11 professional sports teams now that I'm the official Champagne and Cognac of. And where's the hate there? Like, I don't understand it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you said that there was an issue. There's an issue because he was doing the program. He didn't want me to be in the show.
That does not go unnoticed in quiet rooms. And then the swatting begins. Except, it had already begun because this goes back further than most people remember. June 2023, someone calls Child Protective Services and claims Nicki's 2-year-old son is being abused. Officers swarm her home. She is inside with her child. 1 month later, someone calls 911 and reports a shooting at her property. Again, she is home. Again, 20 officers with guns drawn surround the house. And then something happened that this story almost never leads, with police actually tracked down the woman who made that second call. Her name was Stephanie Bell. She was charged with filing 2 false emergency reports. Nicki posted about it, named her, said a warrant had been issued, and then people started pulling up photos side by side, because when you look at Stephanie Bell and then look at Ivana Ortiz, the woman connected to a separate, frightening incident at Rihanna's home, the resemblance is the kind of thing that stops you mid-scroll. We are not saying these are the same person, but 2 women, supposedly acting alone, supposedly motivated by personal grievances, both targeting 2 of the biggest female artists alive within a close window of time. What are the actual mathematical odds of that being coincidence? Because Rihanna is not a random name to drop into this. Both she and Nicki have direct ties to Roc Nation. Rihanna is still signed to them for management. Nicki has the equity dispute she has been screaming about. And then within roughly 3 weeks of each other, Rihanna's property gets hit by a woman who quietly, with almost no coverage.
Maybe I'm tripping, but what are the odds that the woman who Nicki Minaj and the woman who up Rihanna's house look alike? I could be tripping, but that is very much odd.
has an active lawsuit against Live Nation, the parent company of Roc Nation, and Nicki gets a man with a fresh arrest on his record somehow back in that same neighborhood and inside her gates. And the official narrative asks you to look at all of that and file it under unfortunate timing. Now here is where 50 Cent becomes important, because he is one of the only people in this entire industry who has stood visibly next to Nicki throughout all of this, and that is not a small thing. 50 has been raising alarms about Jay-Z for close to 25 years, long before it was safe, long before it was trending. He alleged Jay-Z worked behind the scenes to have him removed from the Super Bowl halftime show with Dr. Dre. He has talked openly about the way Roc Nation operates when someone steps out of line. And when the trespasser got arrested at Nicki's gate, 50 reportedly reached out to her privately, not publicly for the cameras privately. And then he started drawing the connection between what happened at her home and what happened at Rihanna's, out loud, in public, where everyone could hear it. A man who has survived this industry for that long does not start connecting those dots casually. Then there is Desiree Perez, and this is the layer most people skip over entirely. She is the CEO of Roc Nation. She has been Jay-Z's closest operational partner for years. She is one of the names Nicki has been calling out specifically, and Desiree has a history that the music press tends to leave on the shelf. In 1994, she was arrested as part of a major narcotics conspiracy, reportedly caught with a significant amount of cocaine, and according to reports, she cooperated with federal prosecutors, became an informant, wore a wire against her former associates, and avoided a lengthy sentence. She went on to become one of the most powerful executives in entertainment. And then, on his last day in office in January 2021, Donald Trump granted her a full pardon. When Nicki pointed this out publicly and asked how Jay-Z's progressive fanbase reconciles their so-called black savior having a top executive who was pardoned by Trump, that was not random chaos. That was a very deliberate move to expose something, and the response from Jay-Z's camp was complete silence, total silence. And powerful people with nothing to hide do not usually respond to that kind of public accusation with nothing. There is also a woman named Demery who came forward claiming that Desiree used her connections to have her institutionalized, paid off doctors to make her appear mentally unstable, all allegedly because Desiree disapproved of her daughter's relationship choices. When Nicki saw that story, she did not keep scrolling. She posted about it directly and drew the line between Demery's experience and her own, pointing out that the exact language being used to discredit Demery, crazy, unstable, not in her right mind, was the same language being used against her. And when a woman with Nicki's platform takes that specific moment to say, this is what it looks like when these people want to erase you and make everyone think it was your own mind that broke, that is not someone being dramatic. That is someone recognizing a blueprint. And then April 1st arrives, album day. The kind of moment that was supposed to shift the entire narrative back toward her music, back toward her artistry, back towards something that had nothing to do with lawsuits or accusations or industry politics. Instead, the day gets swallowed by a security incident involving a man who was already in police custody in that same neighborhood 5 days prior, released, and back inside her gates before the week was out. Ask yourself who benefits from that? Who benefits from Nicki's album rollout being buried under a news cycle about danger at her home? Who benefits from the public continuing to see her name attached to chaos instead of creativity? Follow the incentive, and the picture gets very clear very fast. What we are sitting with is a set of connections that nobody has officially confirmed, but that are becoming increasingly difficult to wave away two artists tied to the same management structure, targeted within weeks of each other by individuals who each carry their own suspicious links to that same world. A trespasser with a recent arrest somehow back at a celebrity's gate, years of documented swatting with a traceable pattern, a financial dispute worth hundreds of millions that has never been resolved, and a man who has said absolutely nothing in response to any of it, despite being named specifically and repeatedly. That silence is not neutral. Silence at that level from someone with that many resources and that much access is a choice. And choices like that usually mean something. Let me know what you think is actually going on here, because this is one of those situations where the more you look, the less random it feels.